already have this good body for this project selected. Going to start by choosing steel as the panel material, then monocoque chassis and steel for that as well. Front transfers for the engine placement, since this car will be front-wheel drive, and McPherson strut for the front suspension and torsion beam for the rear. Going to put some kind of design together at this point. We'll skip to when it's done. And here is the finished result. Doesn't it look great? Let's go over the front first. Got a body kit style bumper with big grills, offset license plate, yellow headlights, race car inspired single windscreen wiper, and of course a hood scoop and some vents on the hood. And if you look closely at those, you will notice the hood scoop is not quite centered or put on straight, and the vents aren't symmetrical, simulating some sloppy build quality. Nothing too much to mention on the side. Got some body kit style side skirts and some nice carbon fiber mirrors, also some interesting aftermarket rims, and don't worry about the wheel size and fitment, those will get adjusted later. Onto the rear, really happy with how this light bar style taillight turned out. Then of course got a body kit style rear bumper as well, a massive exhaust pipe tip, some louvers on the rear window, and finally I obviously had to add a massive rear wing. Then let's move into the interior. First, you will probably notice the interesting color choices that were made, but moving on from that, in the front we have some bucket seats, and in the rear some normal rear seats. And what would a car like this be without some banging stereos for your tunes? So got some big speakers on the partial shelf and on the front doors, and to control those it has this very 2000 style head unit in the center console. Moving into the driver's position, it has this very sporty aftermarket style steering wheel, colored to match the rest of the interior, and some sporty pedals you can just about see. Here you can also see that I placed the rear view mirror on the dash like some old open-top sports cars used to have, and finally the gauge cluster. The layout is very basic, but gave it some sporty white gauges on a green background. With that, the design tour is complete. Before we move into the engine builder, I will choose front-wheel drive here. Now for the engine, I want to go for a very basic, unmodified economy car engine. So let's start by making it an inline-4 with a cast iron block. I will make the bore 75mm and stroke 79.2mm to result in a 1.4 liter displacement. And for valve train and head design, I'll go with overhead cam 2 valve and iron economy. Cast for all of these, and just counterweights for the balancing mass. We'll adjust all of these later, and not going to give this VVT or VVL. Keeping this engine naturally aspirated. For the fuel system, I will go with a single barrel eco carburetor, and for fuel I'm speccing regular unleaded and going to go with a compact intake manifold. Then compact headers to match the intake manifold, and this will be straight piped, so none for all of these. Now we'll tune this engine a bit. And here is the engine finished. It's quite the unremarkable engine, which is exactly what I was going for, so nothing to complain about. Now let's do a quick test pull. And now we can move on to the next section. Gearbox is going to be an automatic 4-speed. You might have already spotted the automatic shifter in the interior. Open differential. Going to put some radial sport compound tires on this, and the rim material I will make alloy. First for the adjustments here, going to increase the offset to the max. For the rim size, I think I will go with 18s. And then going to make the tire height really thin. And tire width I will make the max that the game will allow with these settings. For the brakes I'm going solid disc 2-piston on the front and drum on the rear. No under tray. I would call the interior I gave this standard and the entertainment standard CD. Going to optimize the weight to be slightly lighter. Hydraulic rack and pinion for the steering. No traction aids of course. And standard 90s safety. Then suspension, standard springs, gas monotube dampers and passive sway bars. And for suspension tuning, first going to make the ride height as low as it will go. Then max negative camber. And going to make the springs and dampers very stiff as well as the sway bars. To get the look I want, we'll have to adjust the suspension stuff a bit more here. So first decreasing the ride height even more, then adding even more negative camber and adjusting the wheel offset. Then just doing the same to the rear wheels. With all that done, we'll adjust the rest of these things. And here is everything finished. Just made sure everything here made sense and worked well enough. You can see here that I do have a long list of suggestions relating to the suspension and tires, but of course I don't care about those. Now to give this thing a name. Orusa EW. Orusa is the Latin word for rice, at least according to Google Translate. And rice, as you may know, is a slang term among car enthusiasts that means race-inspired cosmetic enhancements. And this thing is the peak example of a rice car. We'll get this exported to BMG Drive now, so I can see just how awful this thing will be to drive. Here it is in BMG Drive. So first I think I will want to just drive around, see how it handles that. Already can see that the exhaust pipe tip is clipping into the ground, so that's a good sign. Have some sparks coming from somewhere. Oh nice, it's constantly scraping against the ground. Let's turn this way. The brakes at least aren't as bad as I would have imagined. Going to put my foot down now to see how not fast this car is. Yep, it's just slow. Barely able to get up to 80 kph on that section before this corner. Bit of a handbrake turn here to turn around. At least it can do that. And uphill now. Let's see how badly it will scrape going over these transitions. Not too badly, surprisingly, but the engine is not liking this uphill, I will say. Well, let's go downhill now, pick up some speed here with the help of gravity and getting some air there. Handled the landing surprisingly well. Okay, didn't like that. Yep, I have lost control of the vehicle. Decent crash there. Very important test next. Driving through a residential area in first gear, banging off the limiter, like so. 1 minute actually. Let me change the time to 3 AM to really make this realistic. There we go. Turn on the lights. Oops, should probably take the handbrake off. Accidentally doing a burnout. Now we can continue our drive. Oh nice, getting some flames shooting out from the exhaust as well. Feels appropriate for this car. I mean, don't really know what more to commentate about here. I think I have disturbed the peace enough in this neighborhood, so let's move on to something else. Well, just for fun, let's see how it handles on track. My guess is that it's not going to do well. Off the line, and as we have already figured out, it does not accelerate fast. Brakes are surprisingly good, gotta say. I think I mentioned that earlier already, but I shall repeat it. And it does turn better than I would have thought. It's not good by any stretch of the imagination, but I would have thought with this kind of camber and suspension stiffness, it will just plow straight even at these low speeds. Don't even have to slow for these corners thanks to how slow this thing already is. Okay, there is some of that understeer I was expecting. Took a lot to find it though. And yep, this engine still does not have enough power to go uphill too well. And here is the corkscrew replica. Again, handled that surprisingly well for what this car is. Coming up to the final chicane, can brake quite late thanks to the lack of power and decent brakes. And now just slowly accelerate to get across the line. Able to handle the racetrack surprisingly well for what this car is. Now let's try some dumb stuff. First, let's do a handbrake burnout on purpose this time. Takes a bit, but it is able to break traction on the front and stay in place. Yeah, just a single front wheel spinning thanks to the open differential. That's enough of that then. Small handbrake turn again. Important that this kind of car can do those decently. Let's try one with a bit more speed. Yeah, that works. That one was pretty good. Okay, one more dumb idea. Can this thing do a reverse donut? Yep, it can. Quick-ish direction change. added style points from those sparks coming off the front bumper from scraping against the ground. I think that is enough car park messing around. Now let's go for a top speed run on the highway. And for fun, let's go into the interior camera to start off at least. Here we go. And the speedo is climbing slowly but steadily. How exciting. Still just buzzing along. At least not getting any weird handling issues at these speeds. Since the steering wheel is blocking half of the speedo, let's go into the exterior camera now. Maxing out at 141 kph before the turn into the tunnel. So, what a surprise, a badly tuned car with a stock 60 horsepower economy car engine is not fast. And a good crash to end things on. So yeah, in conclusion, this car is not as bad as I thought it would be to drive, but it's still not good by any measure.